Miles is an artist, and when I taught him, he was a senior, so he was trying to decide what he wanted to do after graduation. So he decided he would visit some schools, and one of the ones he chose to visit was the School of the Arts. So he went to Winston-Salem to visit the School of the Arts, and he spent a lovely weekend there. And he had such a good time, he stayed as late as he possibly could, but it got to be Sunday night and he really had to come home because he needed to make it to class on Monday morning. So at 9 o'clock or so, he left Winston-Salem, got on I-40, started his drive home to Chapel Hill. It started to rain a little bit. The drive passed really without anything bothering him. It was fine. But as he got closer to Chapel Hill, he decided that he was going to take a different way home than usual because Miles likes the forest, and Miles doesn't like other drivers on the road. They're annoying, they get in the way. So he decided, instead of going all the way down 40 to Martin Luther King Jr. Drive, which used to be called Airport Road, and at this time had just changed names, he decided he was going to get off at Old NC 86. I don't know if you've been on Old NC 86, but it's very pretty in the daytime when you can see it. Miles decided it probably was pretty at night too, and there definitely wouldn't be a lot of people out there, so he decided to go. He got off on Old NC 86, and the rain changed into a mist. And the mist thickened into a fog. And soon, he really couldn't see very far in front of the car at all. He started to drive a little more slowly because even though he knew the road kind of, he wanted to be pretty safe here. As he was driving along through the fog, out of the corner of his eye, he caught a glimpse of something shimmering and white. He turned to look. Walking along the side of the road was a young woman in a white evening gown, holding her hand out to indicate that she needed a ride. He slowed down even more and rolled down the window. "Do you need a ride?" "Yes." "Well, where are you going?" "Home." "Where's that?" "Hillsboro. I live off of Dairyland Road." "Oh, that's on my way. Hold on." He pulled over. He got out of the car, he went around the back, he went over to the passenger door because Miles is a chivalrous gentleman, and he opened the door for her, and she slid in without making a sound. He closed the door, went back to his side, got back in, put the keys in the ignition, turned the car on, and kept driving on his way. They sat there in silence for a little while. Miles turned to look at her, and he realized that this girl was one of the most beautiful girls he had ever seen. She had skin that was almost luminescent, and she had soft hair that fell around her shoulders. And she was just, he couldn't imagine a person more beautiful. He definitely wanted to find out more about her. "What's your name?" "Lydia." "My name's Miles." "Okay." He didn't really feel like the conversation was going too well, but he was really curious and wanted to know why a girl in an evening gown was hitchhiking down Old 86 in the fog after rain at 11 o'clock at night on a Sunday. "So, why were you hitchhiking?" "My boyfriend and I were on a date and we had a fight and I made him let me out of the car." He decided maybe he shouldn't pursue that line of conversation any further. "Where do you go to school?" "Orange." "Cool. I go to East Chapel Hill." "Okay." And she didn't really seem to want to talk about herself much, so he decided he wasn't going to press her any further and he would just try to be respectful and leave her alone. She'd already had enough trouble for one night. So they kept going along in silence until they came to Dairyland Road, and he asked her which direction to go. "Right." He went right, waited for more instructions. "Left." "Right here." "Left. This is my house." He pulled over. He stopped. "Okay, here we are." "Thank you." He wanted to be chivalrous again, so he got out, went around the back of the car, went over to the passenger passenger door. Open the passenger door. She wasn't there. He was a little worried that maybe somebody had come up, like her boyfriend, and grabbed her somehow without her making any noise. But he told himself she probably just ran inside really fast because she wanted to get in and change clothes or something. The house was dark, and he thought he should take a look and check to make sure she had gotten in okay. So he went up. The house was still dark, and he thought if she had gone in, she probably would have turned on a light. He really better check to make sure she was okay. So he knocked. No answer. He waited a little bit. He knocked again. No answer. He waited a little bit longer, and then he knocked as loud as he could. Finally, there was an answer. A woman came to the door, and he saw on her face that she looked very much like Lydia, and he thought she must be her mother. She looked really sad and really tired. Yes? Excuse me, I'm very, very sorry to disturb you this late at night, but I just drove Lydia home, and I wanted to make sure she got in okay. Is this a joke? I'm sorry? I don't think it's funny for you to come here tonight. This is very rude and inappropriate. I really don't know what you're talking about. I'm very sorry. Lydia is my daughter, and she died in a car accident a year ago tonight. I can't believe you would come here. Please leave. Miles didn't know what else to do, so he just did as she asked and turned around and got back in the car and drove the rest of the way home to Chapel Hill. When he got home, he couldn't stop thinking about her, though, so he decided he was going to do some research and find out more about Lydia. So he went online and went to a couple of newspaper websites and looked for articles from around that time the year before. And he found that indeed a young woman had died in a car accident on Old NC 86 a year before, exactly to that day. He kept thinking about it, and so he really couldn't stop. He looked up where her gravesite was, and he found that out. And at that point, it was about 1 in the morning, and he had to go to bed because he had to go to school the next day. The next morning, he got up, and he went about his daily routine. He went through the school day, but the whole time he couldn't forget about Lydia. So after school, he went to the gravesite. He picked a few wildflowers and set them down on Lydia's grave. And every year now,